I told the story yesterday, we had 111 missiles shot by the Islamic Republic of Japan. They were shot at the aircraft carrier.
It's Ken Harbaugh with the MeidasTouch Network. In case you missed that, there is no Islamic Republic of Japan. Donald Trump was in Ankara yesterday at the NATO Summit, subjecting America to one humiliation after another. Here he is, confusing President Zelensky for President Putin.
Do you have a question for President Putin, please? Do you have a question for President Putin? Not Zelensky. What would you like to ask him? Because I'm going to ask him that question.
Throughout this conference, Trump has continued to lash out at our allies, threatening to take over Greenland and then complaining that the countries of NATO weren't there when we needed them.
Greenland is a big problem for us. And the other big problem is the fact that when we wanted them, we didn't want them badly, but we did say, if you want to join us, and they all said no. But when they could have, they weren't there for us.
Someone needs to remind the president that the only time in history when NATO's Mutual Defense Pact was invoked, that's Article 5 of the Charter, was after 9/11, when NATO came to America's defense. The fact that those countries now refuse to be complicit in our strategically disastrous war of choice against Iran is actually a credit to the alliance. Our friends tried to warn us that this was a bad idea, and they were right. Taking on Iran would have been difficult under any circumstances. But with Pete Hegseth running the Pentagon, the war has been an unmitigated disaster. And every time he talks about it, I cannot help but think about his utter lack of seriousness.
Pete, do you want to tell them about last night?
Yes, sir. Last night, as you said, about a small craft that they were trying to harass shipping with. So that was a big part of what we targeted. Underground facilities where they were storing drones or missiles, coastal defense sites, radar sites, surveillance sites, anything used to harass shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. So anything they thought they had rebuilt or capability they were using was a target last night. And tonight, if we need to, on your order, Mr. President, we will hit even more and even deeper, because that's the consequence.
And we may put down the blockade. We may put it back, the blockade.
I talked to former Army Brigadier General Leela Gray about this. Her 30-year career included multiple combat deployments, and she retired as Deputy Commanding General of U.S. Army Central. She has a lot to say about the damage that Trump and Hegseth are doing to the U.S. military, and she is now running for Congress in Florida to unseat Anna Paulina Luna and hold the Trump regime accountable. Here's our conversation. Leela, thank you so much for joining us. You're a former Army general, and I've got to ask how, as a candidate for Congress in Florida, you balance what must be your daily outrage at what is happening on the national level with Hegseth destroying your army from within and relating that to issues in the Florida 13th. And this must be especially personal as an Army general. I mean, as a Navy vet, I at least get to say he's not one of us. But, you know, Pete Hegseth is a former Army major, disgraced Army major, as Stan McChrystal described him. But it's got to hurt to watch what he is doing at the Pentagon and the lives it is affecting your troopers in some cases.
Ken, actually, that has a lot to do with why I'm here today. And I did not have politics in mind. I'd never planned to run for office. It wasn't, I tease people that even as recently as Thanksgiving, it was not even on my bingo card. But after having watched what transpired all of 2025, including at the very beginning when the removal of General C.Q. Brown and Admiral Lisa Franchetti, when those things happened, there was something inside of me that just, the bell started ringing. And then, of course, it happened again and again and again. And then we also saw the gathering of the generals and admirals at Quantico. And I watched that speech from start to finish.
Can we make that criticism explicit? C.Q. Brown, Black General, Admiral Franchetti, first female CNO, Chief of Naval Operations. Likely not a coincidence, especially when you look at the pattern of Hegseth's other firings and his failures to promote. That's what you're talking about, right?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. On top of the fact that I remember him testifying that he was not going to get rid of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, if you recall. So he lied right up front. And so he's just not to be trusted. And so, but I try to give people the benefit of the doubt early on until they prove me wrong. That's something that I've generally done throughout my career. Even when people tell me otherwise, I try to let people's, the work speak for themselves. Well, the work has spoken. He has removed so much talent for no reason. And having been a general, we know that in the system, if there's something going on, there's an investigation done, then you're apprised of the investigation and your rights to rebut, and then you're removed if there's just cause. And yes, we know we serve at the pleasure of the president, but there's still due process for that because there's so much invested in these senior leaders that we trust and have built that trust over decades that they've been leading. And to throw that away is unconscionable and it's dangerous. Honestly, that was what really got me mostly concerned, was the seeing of the repetitive release of highly skilled, highly decorated, highly talented generation of leadership that we now no longer have at the ready, and replaced with what? It's just not comparable. And I have some personal stories. I'm personally connected to two of the people. And one of them was a classmate of my husband at the Naval Academy. And we knew them very well. And in fact, so many people were just dumbfounded by this firing. And oh, by the way, it was a white male. But because he supported a woman taking a command, he was tossed aside. And it's just really concerning, because not only does it affect and send a chilling effect, and that was what I was mostly concerned about very early on, that chilling effect, because these individuals know what service is about. That's why I'm here. It's about service over self. And that's what they've been doing for decades, yet we toss it aside. And that chilling effect is I think not even going to be able to be measured at this point until later down the line. And I just hope that we have a chance to reverse it.
Hey, it's Ken. Quick break to update you on the fundraiser for the 34th Coastal Defense Brigade in Ukraine. Because of you, we beat our goal. We've already initiated the purchase of the motor upgrade for their rescue boat, and we are assessing other urgent needs to direct the remaining funds towards. I cannot thank you enough. This was the first unit-specific fundraiser we've done here, and given its overwhelming success, I think we'll do more. Thanks again. Back to the show. According to the department, this is all being done in the name of increased lethality and combat effectiveness. The DEI purges, getting rid of the Navajo code talkers, mentions the Tuskegee Airmen, for goodness sakes, on the DOW website, is all about creating a unit cohesion. And yet we have recruits in San Antonio dropping like flies because of the lack of a flu vaccine mandate. One of them dead. We're not sure yet if that is related, but it very well may be. And it just all seems so gratuitously performative, with an audience of, either the most extreme elements of the MAGA base, or worse yet, one person in the White House, and has nothing to do with the effectiveness of the military.
You hit the nail on the head. Lethality is about training. It's about equipping. It's about holding to a standard. It's not about purging those that actually live up to those standards just because they have a different skin color, or they have a different religion, or they have a different gender. It is not about that at all. It never has been. And I've had the chance to serve with people from all backgrounds. And my experience is, as long as we're focused on the mission, that we're well trained, well equipped, and well led, we're going to get the mission done. That has nothing to do with the lethality. And so to randomly select people to be removed because of those things is not appropriate. It's a failure of real leadership, quite frankly. It's a complete failure of leadership, because leadership is about judgment, and judgment is based on experience and facts. And so not a loyalty test. And so we shouldn't be thinking about our leadership and those below them as having to pass some type of loyalty test. Instead, it's about meeting the standards. And I never saw anybody that didn't meet the standard get promoted. I saw people that worked hard, and it, regardless of their gender, regardless of the color of their skin, regardless of their religion, I was, surrounded by wonderful patriots that all believed in our mission and our oath to the Constitution. And that is the only oath that we should be focused on, is our oath to the Constitution. Because when you do that, it truly is about service over self.
Do you worry about the military today with these purgings being confused about that oath in a moment of crisis? And I am thinking, of course, about the upcoming elections. I'm thinking about the 2028 election. We almost crossed this Rubicon in Trump 1.0, but for a single officer in uniform, Milley, saying he's not going to transmit that order to invoke the Insurrection Act or send the 82nd Airborne into D.C., we could have had a full-blown constitutional crisis with the active duty military in the middle of it. I mean, this is already being tested with the Guard and its deployments alongside ICE. How worried are you about the politicization of our military with the most consequential election of our lifetimes right around the corner?
I do worry about the politicization because the military is grounded in its oath to the Constitution, not to a person or a party or an ideology. The ideology is the Constitution. I do believe, I'm inherently a pragmatist and an optimist. So I don't look through the world through rose-colored glasses, but I'm very aware of risks and different thoughts on different topics. But in the end, I'm going to have confidence in our military that this is a tough time. This is not the only tough time we've had in America, though. That's why I'm an optimist and a pragmatist. We had tough times in the 60s. We had a tough time rebuilding after Vietnam because of what had gone on, in America and in our military. So I'm very, very optimistic that we can rebuild and to the point that we had already gained. But we do have to stop the politicization in its tracks. And I think you recently heard a retired general that's serving as a Republican that also called out that some of the things that are going on in the military that we're changing the culture by continuing down this path. But I have hope that those that are the mid and not the most senior, but most senior all the way down to the mid-level leaders are still towing and still believing in their oath to the Constitution, that they're going to uphold their oath to the Constitution. I know that there's risks, but we have to have faith in them as well, and I'm going to give them that faith.
Congress has, I think, demonstrated time and time again that it does not deserve that benefit of the doubt. It has been completely AWOL when it comes to its Article 1 prerogatives around war-making powers. Its unwillingness, inability to check the executive, whether it is the Department of Defense's overreach on timelines vis-a-vis Iran, or the president himself simply ignoring the war-making statutory and constitutional war-making requirement that Congress be involved. How do we fix that?
First of all, you're right. Congress has completely abdicated its responsibilities, not just in war-making. Right? There's a lot of other areas they've abdicated their responsibilities. Oversight for the government, funding, making sure that it is the one that is funding the government, not through executive order by the president and moving money around that's unauthorized. The reality is, when you've spent 30 years in uniform, you understand what your role is. Seems like Congress doesn't understand its role anymore. They've lost sight of it for a variety of reasons. I think a lot of it has to do with they're so busy taking care of themselves. They have no understanding whatsoever of service over self, that their job is to represent people, the people in their district, not themselves, not their party, not their politics. And the fact that Congress has, waited too late to even weigh in on this reckless choice of a war with Iran gives you the results there, right? I mean, their results speak for themselves, the lack of results. And their inability to put a check on Trump has put our lives, our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guard people and their lives in danger, and cost us billions of dollars that we say we can't use to help in our healthcare crisis, that we can't use to fund other parts of the government, just like in the Veterans Affairs that we're cutting instead of serving veterans. And it's a disgrace. And so we have to have people that understand that the Constitution requires us to be that check on the administration, that there's 3 co-equal branches of government. And Congress has just completely sidelined themselves. And I think when you have people like myself and others that have served, we understand what our job would be in Congress. And that's why I think you're actually seeing such a surge of military veterans running for Congress, because we no longer can stand on the sidelines, whether they serve 6 years or 30 years like me. We understand that this country needs people with real leadership experience that know how to bring people together and that know how to solve problems.
Where can people find out more about your campaign and how can they help?
Oh, I'd love to have more people join Team Gray. We're at leelagray.com, and you'll find out a little bit more about my background and how I ended up being in the Army, as well as rising through the ranks and the combat tours that I engaged. And so I'd love to have more people come to leelagray.com.
Great. Thanks, Leela. General Gray, great having you.
Thank you for having me, Ken.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.